What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. We are still in the 48-hour period after a win, although we are rapidly approaching the end of that 48-hour period here. And life's still good. Two-game winning streak, top of the division. We'll see if it holds for this week, but right now, life is good. And when life is good, it's important to appreciate it because life may not be good next time. So, I saw something on X last night that I found to be really fascinating and also, honestly, really encouraging. And I want to talk about it a little bit here because this is something that further adds credence to, in my opinion anyway, it adds credence to the belief that Mike Macdonald is the right guy for the job. And it adds credence to my belief that once the personnel gets a little bit better, this team should be poised to be a great team in future years. Like this 2024 Seahawks team, they're probably not going to be a great team this year, right? We're probably going to be here at the end of the year and be like, oh, they were average, or oh, they were good, but they weren't great. But I look at something like this and I think to myself, greatness is within reach next year, the year after that, because the little edges are being taken care of. So this is from Football Insights on X. The data comes from RBSDM, which is the Ben B. Baldwin site. Really good site, by the way. I didn't know they had this data, but this chart right here caught my attention because the Seahawks are all the way on the left side of it. And if you subscribe to this theory, left is good. I believe that left is good anyway. Not everyone's necessarily going to agree, but basically this is an analytics chart and it lists every team in order of how likely they are to go for it on fourth down when they're supposed to go for it on fourth down. And obviously, when a team is supposed to go for it on fourth down will always be subjective, but basically it takes every fourth down that a team faces, and it lists out whether or not win probability is gained at least 1% or more if the team chooses to go for it. And then it sees how often the team actually goes for it as a percentage and ranks them from left, which is the team that is most likely to go for it when win probability is in their favor. And then the teams on the right are the least likely to go for it in those situations. So win probability gain of more than one. Win probability is between 5 to 95%, so it excludes garbage time. It also excludes the final 30 seconds of a game, which is kind of interesting. I'd be interested to know why they do that. And it's for the whole season so far. The Seahawks are number one. The Seattle Seahawks have had, I'm guessing that these numbers at the bottom here are how many times they've had a situation where they should go for it on fourth down. 15. And they have gone for it on about, it looks like about 10 of those opportunities. So 67%. And then you've got the Falcons here at about 65%. No one else is above 60. You have the Browns at 60. And then you have a drop off to below 60. So nobody's touching 70, which is kind of interesting, right? And I think why that is, this is something that analytics does struggle with. And I want to be very clear here. I think that analytics are good. I think that analytics are necessary. I think people that don't like analytics are people who are old and stuck in their ways more than anything, personally. I think that a refusal to acknowledge that analytics are good is mostly something that comes from people that are very results oriented. And ultimately, the only thing they care about when their team goes for it on fourth down is do they get it or not. If they get it, it was good. If they don't get it, it was bad. That's kind of how I feel about it. But there is a gap in analytics in some situations, and there are some situations where the analytics say go for it, but pretty much nobody's going to go for it. Like, what if you're at your own 12-yard line and it's 4th and inches? The analytics might say you should go for it, but nobody's going to go for it there. Because let's say you get it. Okay, you've got the ball at your own 13-yard line now. Are you going to score on that drive? The odds are still kind of against you here. You still have a lot more you need to do if you want to score to make going for it worth it there, right? Like, nobody's going to do that because you don't gain enough. At least in practice, it feels like you don't gain enough. So understand that there are situations where the analytics will say go for it, but barely anybody's ever going to even think about going for it because it's not worth it. Because even if there's a 90% chance you get it, the 10% is so bad and the 90% is not that great, so you're going to punt it. But excluding probably those situations, the Seahawks are number one, which is kind of amazing because based on the players they have, they should probably be near the back. Like, think about it. This Seahawks team can't run the ball. They can't even really threaten to run the ball. Their offensive line is one of the worst in the league. They have no run blocking. Their interior offensive line play has mostly been abysmal this year. Couple of moments of competency, but for the most part, it's been incompetent. And if there's any team in this league that should be scared of doing the right thing, it should be the Seahawks, right? Like the Falcons being all the way up here, that makes sense. The Falcons have invested a lot into that offensive line. They have a good offensive line. A team like the Browns, they still have a pretty good offensive line. It's not what it used to be. But these are teams that it makes sense that they would always be going for it because their personnel is built for fourth downs. If they get into fourth and inches, Falcons are like, Bijan's going to get this. Let's just give it to him. Let's get behind our great offensive line. Let's get behind some of these players that we paid a lot of money for, a lot of these players that are considered to be some of the best in the league. Let's ride them. They're going to come through for us almost every time. Seahawks can't do that. They have a great running back. They got a great backfield, but they don't have the offensive line. And yet, they recognize when it's time to go for it. And this is with them probably chickening out a little bit because of that. Like, I'm thinking back to that Patriots game in week 2 where we went into New England and won in overtime. There was a play in that game where we had fourth and inches in the red zone with, I think it was less than 2 minutes left, and we were down by 3. We lined up to go for it. We thought about it. We didn't do it. And I'm willing to bet that was a situation where analytics said, go for it. Because going for it gives you a chance to win the game in regulation, and it makes it less likely New England gets the ball back with enough time to go score. So I can pretty much guarantee that analytics would say, go for it. Seahawks didn't go for it. They kicked the field goal. They won in overtime. And I feel like they would have gone for it if they had a good offensive line. So even with the limitations on this personnel, this team still knows what to do and when to do it, and they're willing to do it. And it doesn't always work. I mean, we've seen a couple of failed fourth down conversion attempts. Some in situations where it was clearly correct to go for it, some in situations where it was a little more debatable. But this team is not shying away from it just because it hasn't always worked out exactly as they hoped. And what this tells me is that when they do get the personnel that allow them to reliably convert fourth and inches or 4th and 1 or even 4th and 2, when they have an offensive line, they're going to maybe do it even more. And they're going to be one of the teams that is on the cutting edge of acknowledging when it's good to go for it. Just like they've been, maybe not on the cutting edge, but they've been one of the teams that is willing to go for a 2-point conversion when the analytics say it is profitable to do so. And they were not terrible in this area under Pete Carroll, but there were definitely times where the situation very clearly called to go for it, and Pete just didn't want to do it because he trusted his defense. And near the end, Pete was wrong to trust his defense because near the end, the defense was really bad. And most of the time, it didn't work out very well for us. But this new coaching staff, even in the face of one of the worst offensive lines in football, some of the worst run blocking in football, they're not afraid. And I think that's a great sign. Maybe it's not a great sign for this year because there's no fixing this offensive line right now. But if you can get that offensive line playing at a higher level and you combine it with a team that uses analytics to make these decisions and is willing to trust the math, it could be something really special and it could be something really productive. So if you were looking for another reason to be encouraged by where this team is headed right now, look no further. This tells me this team is doing things the right way. They don't always get the right result, but even in the face of that, they're not afraid to do the right thing. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you guys later. Go Hawks, and have a good day. Something to think about, something to feel good about. At least I feel good about it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you like to never go for it on fourth down. I don't know. But good sign, people. Good sign.